come at last in Plato's Symposium to the speech of Aristophanes. Aristophanes is a comedic playwright. He writes comedies. And his story, the story in his speech is truly, truly hilarious. But that doesn't mean it's not profound and interesting and important. And I think it's probably best if we just jump right into it. Aristophanes says, first, you must learn what human nature was in the beginning and what has happened to it since. Because long ago, our nature was not what it is now, but very different. I'm still using the Hackett translation, published by Hackett, not by someone named Hackett. Published by Hackett, translated by Alexander Nehemas and Paul Woodruff. Anyway, first you must learn what human nature was in the beginning and what has happened to it since, because long ago our nature was not what it is now, but very different. There were three kinds of human beings, that's my first point, not two as they are now, male and female. In addition to these, there was a third, a combination of those two. Its name survives, though the kind itself has vanished. At that time, you see, the word androgynous really meant something, a word made up of male and female elements, though now there's nothing but the word, and that's used as an insult. My second point is that the shape of each human being was completely round, with back and sides in a circle. They had 4 hands each, as many legs as hands, and 2 faces exactly alike on a rounded neck. Between the 2 faces, which were on opposite sides, was 1 head with 4 ears. There were 2 sets of sexual organs, and everything else was the way you'd imagine it from what I've told you. They walked upright, as we do now, whatever direction they wanted, and whenever they set out to run fast, they thrust out all their 8 limbs, the ones they had then, and spun rapidly the way gymnasts do cartwheels by bringing their legs around straight. So, already it's kind of hilarious. The original humans were a combination of 2 of what we have now. And so the faces were facing outward. It's sort of like if you take 2 humans and, I guess, join them at the back. Yeah. And so the faces are facing outward, and a total of 4 arms per person and 4 legs per person. And we're completely round with these 4 arms and 4 legs, and 2 sets of sexual organs in each person. And the males, 2 sets of male sexual organs. The females have 2 sets of female. Then the ones with 1 set of male and 1 set of female, those are the androgynous. And it turns out most of us come from the androgynous type of human. Now, the male kind was originally an offspring of the sun, the female of the earth, and the androgynous came from the moon. And they were spherical, and so was their motion, because they were like their parents in the sky. In strength and power, they were terrible, and they had great ambitions. They made an attempt on the gods, and so Zeus and the other gods got together to discuss what to do, and they were sore perplexed. They couldn't wipe out the human race with thunderbolts and kill them all off, as they had the giants, because that would wipe out the worship they receive along with the sacrifices. On the other hand, they couldn't let them run riot, and so Zeus eventually had an idea. An idea, he says, now Aristophanes quoting Zeus, an idea that would allow, a plan that would allow human beings to exist and stop their misbehaving. They'll give up being wicked when they lose their strength, so I shall now cut each of them in 2. At one stroke they will lose their strength and also become more profitable to us, owing to the increase in their number. They shall walk upright on 2 legs. But if I find they still run riot and do not keep the peace, I will cut them in 2 again, and they'll have to make the run 1 leg, hopping. I would hate to be cut in half from where I am now. And Zeus does this. He cuts them in half. So, Zeus is the king of the gods, and Apollo is one of the other gods, a great god. And after Zeus cuts the human beings in half, he commands Apollo to turn around the faces, the face. Maybe I got some of the physics mixed up. The face was facing outward, and the king of the gods, Zeus, cut us down the middle, so now he has to turn the face around to face the, maybe I did get it right. Apollo has to turn the faces of the humans around to face where the wound was. Two humans are joined together, faces facing outward that way, and Zeus splits them apart and then has to turn the faces around so they're facing the inside where they were cut. And there's an amusing description of what else Apollo did, shaping the stomach, the navel, the breasts, and he left a few wrinkles around the stomach and the navel to be a reminder of what happened long ago. I believe this is referring to rolls of fat around the stomach, and it's kind of hilarious. Now, since their natural form had been cut in two, each one longed for its other half. And so they would throw their arms about each other, weaving themselves together, wanting to grow together. In that condition, they would die from hunger and general idleness, because they would not do anything apart from each other. It's hilarious, but also super pathetic and sad. These humans who were cut in half, well, because we originally, two of what we are now, joined in one whole is how we started off, and Zeus split us down the middle and turned our faces around to face the where we were cut up, and the parts of us over here are made from smoothing out, from drawing skin over the wound and smoothing it out, some work of Apollo. And then we long for the other half of the whole that we originally were. And so the poor little humans throw their arms about each other and weave themselves together, wanting to grow together, but they can't grow together, and so they just pathetically die of hunger, and it's really sad. So now Zeus, hang on, let me make sure we're clear on what how they're coming together. One of the halves, they would die from hunger and idleness. Whenever one of the halves died and one was left, the one that was left still sought another and wove itself together with that. Sometimes the half he met came from a woman, as we'd call her now. Sometimes it came from a man. Either way, they kept on dying. Then, however, Zeus took pity on them and came up with another plan. And so the sexual organs are on the outside. And now Zeus moves the sexual organs around to the other side, which is now the front side, formerly the inside, where we were split in two. And Zeus moved their genitals around to the front. Never mind how humans reproduced in the old days. No, let's not, never mind. Before then, you see, they used to have their genitals outside like their faces, and they cast seed and made children not in one another, but in the ground, like cicadas. So Zeus brought about this relocation of genitals, and in doing so he invented interior reproduction by the man in the woman. The purpose of this was so that when a man embraced a woman, he would cast his seed and they would have children, but when male embraced male, they would at least have the satisfaction of intercourse, after which they would stop embracing, return to their jobs, and look after their other needs in life. This then is the source of our desire to love each other. Well, let's not read that bit yet. Okay, so the humans were powerful and they were making trouble, and each human being was a whole made from two of what we have now, which is only half of a human being. Each of us is only half of a human being. And Zeus split us down the middle, and originally there were sexual organs and faces pointing outwards, and Zeus split us down the middle and then turned first the faces and then later the sexual organs around to the inside. And so when the humans pathetically came together, trying to be reunited with their tragically lost other halves, they would be able to have sexual relations with each other, and when it's male or female, they can at least have some satisfaction of a sexual relation. But when it's male-female, that is to say, when the original kind of androgynous humans come together, where there was a male sexual organs on one side and female on the other side, now they both got turned around to the inside, they can come together and make babies as well as have sexual relations. And because of the satisfaction of the sexual relations, they can stop pathetically clinging to each other and starving to death, and they can go do some farming and grow some food and live the rest of their lives. So this then is the source of our desire to love each other, says Aristophanes. Love is born into every human being. It calls back the halves of our original nature together. It tries to make one out of two and heal the wound of human nature. Each of us then is a matching half of a human whole, because each was sliced like a flat fish, two out of one, and each of us is always seeking the half that matches him. That's why a man who is split from the double sort, which used to be called androgynous, runs after women. Women who are split from a woman, however, pay no attention at all to men. They are oriented more towards women, and lesbians come from this class. People who are split from a male are male-oriented, while they are boys. Because they are chips off the male block, they love men and enjoy lying with men. Lying with men. Not telling lies, but lying with men. And being embraced by men, those are the best boys and lads, because they are the most manly in their nature. It's so funny. This book is hilarious. The best boys and lads are the gay ones, because they're the manliest. Of course, some say such boys are shameless, but they're lying. It's not because they have no shame that such boys do this, you see, but because they're bold and brave and masculine, and they tend to cherish what is like themselves. So don't call gay boys shameless. Call them super manly. Do you want me to prove it? Look, these are the only kind of boys who grow up to be real men in politics. I don't know what to make of that. It might be that the hilarious joke it kind of looks like to me is exactly what it is. He's insulting gay people and politicians at the same time. He's literally saying, don't say that gay boys are shameless. Say rather that they're super manly. You want proof of this? They're the only kind of people who ever succeed in doing anything great in politics. In other words, gays turn out to be politicians, and politicians turn out to be super gay, implicitly because they're both fit to be laughed at. That's one possible reading. But literally, he's complimenting gays and politicians. And honestly, I'm not really sure what to make of it all, except that it's hilarious. It's a hilarious speech. When they're grown men, they are lovers of young men. They naturally pay no attention to marriage or to making babies, except insofar as they are required by local custom. They, however, are quite satisfied to live their lives with one another unmarried in every way. Then this sort of man grows up as a lover of young men and a lover of love, always rejoicing in his own kind, etc., etc. And so, when a person meets the half that is his very own, whatever his orientation, whether it's to young men or not, then something wonderful happens. The two are struck from their senses by love, by a sense of belonging to one another, and by desire, and they don't want to be separated from one another, not even for a moment. Beautiful description of the human state of being in love and having a relationship with a person who seems like your other half. We still use this language, my other half, my better half. We still talk that way. This sense that what I really am is not this person, this human being. This is only half of a whole. The true human whole is the whole that happens when I find my other half and I am permanently united with her. These are the people, etc., etc. Talk about sex. Hephaestus. Oh, there's a hilarious discussion of Hephaestus. Hephaestus, that's the without pausing to review exactly what language I should use, the great craftsman among the gods. If there's a talk about what if Hephaestus talked to two lovers lying together and asked, what do you really want? And offers to restore them to that original wholeness, to bind them together so that they can never be physically separated again. Aristophanes says, surely you can see that no one who received such an offer would turn it down. No one would find anything else that he wanted. Now, maybe we're supposed to recognize this as rather silly, because then what would happen? I guess maybe if Hephaestus is offering to restore us to the original version of ourselves, we'd be all right, but he'd have to turn our faces around. Otherwise, I don't know. Our faces pressed together? Can we even breathe after Hephaestus reunites us? I'm not really sure. I don't know if we're going to be able to live and eat. But maybe Hephaestus would also turn our faces back around. I'm not finding clarity on that in this translation here. Anyway, Aristophanes suggests that anyone in love who's found his or her other half would totally accept the offer of Hephaestus to be restored to our original wholeness. Instead, everyone would think that he'd found out at last what he had always wanted. No one would turn it down. Instead, we'd think, oh, this is exactly what I wanted. To come together and melt together with the one he loved so that one person emerged from two. Because love is the name for our pursuit of wholeness, for our desire to be complete. Now, I should probably comment on this very, very briefly after briefly wrapping up the last two paragraphs. Aristophanes says, there's a danger that if we don't keep order before the gods, we'll be split into again, and be split down the middle and have just one leg a piece. And he says, we should encourage all men, therefore, to treat the gods with all due reverence so that we may escape this fate and find wholeness instead. It's important to pursue the wholeness we're looking for, not to risk angering the gods and getting split again into now quarters, but to honor the gods and continue pursuing the wholeness we have lost. Now, Aristophanes is a writer of comedies, and before he began his speech, he was making some jokes with Symmachus. I didn't read them in this edition. They're on page 472, the complete works of Plato. And now he says, don't get any ideas, Symmachus, and turn this speech into a comedy. Now, don't think I'm pointing this at Pausanias and Agathon. Probably they both do belong to the group that are entirely masculine in nature. Yeah, they're probably both totally gay. But I am speaking about everyone. I'm speaking about everyone, men and women alike, and gay or not. And I say there's just one way for the human race to flourish. We must bring love to its perfect conclusion. And each of us must win the favors of his very own young man so that he can recover his original nature. If that is the ideal, then of course the nearest approach to it is best in present circumstances. And that is to win the favor of young men who are naturally sympathetic to us. Try to find your original half and be united to that person, your original other half. And if not, at least do what you can. If we are to give due praise to the God, did I see 2 paragraphs? That's actually 3. If we are to give due praise to the God who can give us this blessing, then we must praise love. Love is the God who helps us pursue wholeness. Love does the best that can be done for the time being. He draws us towards what belongs to us. But for the future, love promises the greatest hope of all. If we treat the gods with due reverence, he will restore us to our original nature, and by healing us, he'll make us blessed and happy. Okay. Well, my phone fell off its perch, and I hope the sound was not too painful. All right. What do we make of the speech of Aristophanes? Well, it is so truly hilarious, but also, as other people have said before me, rather moving. The quest for wholeness. I'd have to check. I think one of my old teachers wrote a whole book called The Quest for Wholeness. It is certainly something that is talked about in any number of places. The quest for wholeness. Love is the quest for wholeness. And Aristophanes is giving us this hilarious but moving mythical story of the origin of the human quest for wholeness. We're literally looking for the other half of ourselves because none of us is a complete person, a complete human being, a complete self without finding the other half and being reunited to that person. Or if we can't succeed at that, at least finding a half sufficiently similar to have some measure of wholeness again. All right, so what do we make of it besides these observations? And how does the speech of Aristophanes fit into the overall structure of the Symposium? Well, let's review a few things. Phaedrus had praised love as good in itself and implied that virtue serves love. Pausanias praises love and says love serves virtue. Love is not as important as what love loves. Love loves the good. And then Eric, the doctor, also said love loves the good. And he gave a partial account of the good as a sort of balance and harmony among different elements. And now Aristophanes praises love and says love is the pursuit of wholeness. Love is still not as important as what love pursues. What does love pursue? Wholeness. So here's one very sensible, simple way of taking this. Just keep straight all these different perspectives. Phaedrus, love is the ultimate. Virtue serves love. Pausanias, love is not as important as what love loves. What love loves is virtue and the good. Eryximachus, Eric the doctor, what love loves is not what love loves is more important than love, and what love loves is the good, and the good involves balance and harmony among different elements. And then Aristophanes, what love loves is more important than love itself, and love is important only because it can help us get closer to what we love, which is wholeness. Love loves the good, and the good is more important, and the good is wholeness. And then after the speech of Agathon, we'll get Socrates' speech and his account of love as pursuing beauty, and how the ultimate beauty is beauty itself, the divine, non-physical, transcendent reality of beauty. I think to be interpreted parallel to the good itself in Plato's Republic. And I think you could just leave it at that and say there's this text, the Symposium, is to be interpreted as giving us these different perspectives on love, and some perspectives are no doubt better than others, although probably they all have their insights. And the idea that love is not as good or as important as what love pursues, and love pursues the good, which has been described successively as virtue, harmony among different elements, and now wholeness. These accounts of what love pursues are super duper important, and probably the final correct answer, if we could comprehend it and if we had time to sort through it, would include all of those elements and would piece them together in just the right way. And probably wholeness is a slightly more informative account of what love pursues as the good than Eric's account or Pausanias' account, though probably all of them need to be integrated. And then, of course, a very sensible way of reading the text is to say that Socrates' account, that we'll probably get to 2 videos from now, is going to be the most informed account into which the others need to be integrated. Probably something like that. Anyway, if that's the case, you take Socrates as the best account of love and what love loves, and then understand the quest for wholeness as one aspect of what Socrates is going to be describing. That's probably the best way to interpret the text. At any rate, I think it's the right default setting, though there may be subtleties that I haven't had brain cells or time to consider. Anyway, speaking of time, this has gone on for too long. Thanks for watching, and I expect next time we're doing the speech of Agathon, and then we get to the speech of Socrates, and then the hilarious entrance of Alcibiades. Thanks for watching Plato's my nerdy commentary on Plato's Symposium.